You know, most Christians can agree on one huge thing: Jesus Christ is coming back. But that's pretty much where the agreement stops. A massive debate opens up, not about if he's coming, but about the timing of one single critical event, the rapture. Okay, let's really get into this.
So are believers caught up to meet Christ before a future 7-year tribulation period, during it, or only after the whole thing has run its course? And look, this is not some minor theological detail. If you believe the Scriptures promise that believers will be delivered from God's wrath, well, the answer to this one question completely changes everything.
So for this explainer, we are laser-focused on one central question. Does the biblical text itself actually demand a pre-tribulation rapture? We're going to set aside tradition for a minute. We're going to push the charts and the inherited assumptions to the side and just look at one thing: the text itself.
Now, just to make sure we're all on the same page, the word rapture comes from this idea of being caught up. It's from a key passage in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. It describes this absolutely incredible moment where believers, both those who have passed away and those still alive, are raised up to meet Christ in the air. The event itself isn't really the dispute. The real fight is over where it fits on the prophetic timeline.
So basically, you've got three primary camps in this debate. The pre-tribulation view says the church is gone before those 7 years even kick off. Then you have the pre-wrath or mid-tribulation views, which argue the church goes through part of it but gets pulled out before God's wrath really hits its peak. And finally, the post-tribulation view holds that the church is here for the whole ride, right until the very end. 3 views, 1 timeline.
All right, let's start building the case for the pre-tribulation view. And we're going to start by looking at our first piece of textual evidence. And it's a very specific promise made to a particular church in the book of Revelation. Here we go. Revelation 3:10. Listen to this promise: to be kept from the hour of trial. Now notice the details here. This hour is in the future, it's a global event, and its whole purpose is to test the inhabitants of the earth. If you hold to a pre-trib view, you see this as a direct, explicit promise of being exempted from that entire tribulation period.
This is where the original Greek gets really fascinating. The phrase for keep from is terio ek. And here's the argument. That wording implies complete removal out of something. Think of it like this. It's not about being given an umbrella to stay dry inside a hurricane. It's about being evacuated from the area before the hurricane even hits. For pre-tribulationists, this language is a huge deal. It suggests being taken out of the time period itself. Okay, let's move on to our next piece of evidence and see how this all starts to connect. We're going to broaden our investigation a bit and look at the very nature and purpose of this coming hour of trial. I mean, what is it actually for?
If you go way back into the Old Testament, the prophet Jeremiah describes this future time of just unparalleled trouble. But check out the very specific name he gives it: the time of Jacob's trouble. Now, since Jacob's name was changed to Israel, this is widely understood to mean a period focused primarily on the nation of Israel.
So here's the crucial point then. If the tribulation is really a period of God's divine wrath, and its main purpose is the purification and restoration of Israel, well, that provides a really powerful theological reason why the church wouldn't be there. The logic is simple. This time isn't for you.
Now, this next section tackles something that causes a lot of confusion. The Bible actually talks about people being taken in a couple of different ways at the end of the age, and they really don't seem to be describing the same event. So let's look at this closely.
First up, you have Jesus' incredible promise in John chapter 14. He says he's going to the Father's house to prepare a place, and that he will come back to take believers there. The destination is clearly heavenly. This sounds exactly like the rapture, a departure to be with Christ where he is.
But this immediately brings up that question a lot of people have. What about that other super famous passage, the one that's so often tied to the rapture, where one is taken and one is left? Is that talking about the same thing? Well, the text itself gives a pretty surprising answer.
When the disciples asked Jesus, okay, where are these people being taken? His answer is, well, it's stark. He says, where the body is, there the vultures will be gathered. And this just brilliantly illustrates the difference. That imagery, vultures and a corpse, is consistently used in Scripture for divine judgment. So in this passage, being taken is a very bad thing. It means being taken away for judgment, while the one who is left remains safe. It's the polar opposite of that promise in John 14.
Okay, so we've looked at several different lines of evidence from the text. Now, let's pull them all together and see if we can assemble a single, cohesive argument for a pre-tribulation rapture. So when you lay it all out, the case looks something like this.
you have a specific promise to be kept out of a future hour of global trial. That trial is identified as being primarily for Israel. Then there's a promise for believers to be taken to a heavenly home, which seems completely distinct from another event where people are taken for judgment. Each piece is designed to interlock, forming this picture where the church is removed before the tribulation even begins.
But, and this is a really big but, this entire framework, this interlocking structure of arguments we just walked through, it all balances on one single pivotal point. The whole thing hinges on one critical question.
And that question is this: when does God's wrath actually begin? Because if the church is promised deliverance from wrath, we absolutely have to know precisely when that wrath starts. The answer could either validate or completely collapse this entire argument, and that is exactly where we're going in our next explainer.